Today's topic is our fourth lesson as we're working through the book of Colossians. And we're going to talk about keeping Christ in the Christian life. This is great for anyone who has sort of struggled with churchiness, with religiosity. We're going to look at chapter 2, verses 6 through 23, because it's exactly what Paul is dealing with in this section. He says in verse 6, "And now just as you accepted Christ Jesus as your Lord, you must continue to follow him. Don't let anyone capture you with empty philosophies and high-sounding nonsense that come from human thinking rather than from Christ." And so he's talking to people who have maybe gotten sort of suckered into a view of Christianity, a perspective on Christianity that's not Christian at all, because that can happen. It happened 2,000 years ago, and it still happens today. So here's the first thing we're going to learn. Following Jesus, really following Jesus, is not about meeting the expectations of others. It's easy to get in the mode of sort of becoming a people pleaser, and you live your Christian life to please other people. Maybe if you're a student, you want to please your parents. It's not a bad thing, but that can become a trap, and that can keep you from really following Jesus, right? Following Jesus is more than that. That's what he says here in this section. He says in verse 16, "Don't let anyone condemn you for what you eat or drink. Don't let anyone condemn you by insisting on pious self-denial." Now, the issues back in their day, 2,000 years ago, and in a different culture, were certainly different issues than we have today. But I think that as you read this and study this, that what you should take away is that religious rituals, right? Expectations that other people put on us, if they're not biblical, then we shouldn't let them creep into our Christian experience. Here's the second thing, and it really relates to it. Really following Jesus is not about keeping religious rules, right? It's easy to have this sort of checklist of rules that you get handed at the door, right? In all of our Christian cultures. And pretty soon we lose Jesus, right? We forget all about Jesus, but we've got all these rules. He says this in verse 20, "Why do you keep on following the rules of the world, such as don't handle, don't taste, don't touch?" He says these rules may seem wise, but really they're pointless. They provide no actual practical help in conquering our evil desires. And this is something that Paul understood all too well, that the law, rules, following rules in and of themselves cannot save you, that cannot set you free. Only Jesus can set you free from the inside out. And here's really what this whole section's talking about, what it boils down to. Following Jesus, at the end of the day, is about cultivating a deep connection with Jesus, right? You've probably heard this before. It's not about religion, it's about a relationship with Jesus. Well, maybe that's cheesy by now, but it really is true. And that's what Paul's talking about here in this letter. He says, let's go back to the beginning of the section. "Let your roots grow down into him and let your lives be built on him, and then your faith will grow strong in the truth you were taught, and you will overflow with thankfulness." What Paul is saying is, don't take Christ out of the Christian life. It is so easy to institutionalize Christianity. It is so easy to start going to church, and it's not bad to go to church. It's not bad to have rules. But if you make it about going to church, and if you make it about the rules, then you're missing Christ, and you're in danger of taking Jesus out of faith. Don't do that. That's what Paul's message is in this passage.